From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
A lot of fear and uncertainty.
Concerns rising for Montana parents as cuts to the Department of Education loom.
The fees there, they were all questionable, and I just felt like my hands were tied. I kind of almost felt hopeless.
Towing troubles continue. How more Montanans are telling us they're victims of overcharging.
Do you know where the beef that you buy comes from? Well, 3 women in central Montana have started a business that aims to make sure consumers know exactly what they're getting when they buy their product. We'll have more on that coming up.
Good morning and welcome to Montana This Morning on this Thursday, March 20th. I'm Augusta McDonnell here with Miller Robson. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Welcome to spring.
It's the first day of spring today.
Okay, yeah.
Welcome to spring. Happy Thursday.
Yeah, and we'll have spring-like temperatures today. We're going to try to hit 50 today in Billings, which is exactly where we should be. What if I told you we have a chance to hit 70 next week, though? Yeah. Now, before we get there, we've got an unsettled weather pattern. We've got more mountain snow and lower elevation rain on the way. More on that coming up. Let's take a step back in time. Yesterday, our high was a bit below the norm. Our high only getting up to 46, so shy of that 50. Our low, 26, pretty much on target for the season. Top gust yesterday of 32 miles an hour officially at the airport. That's a big story this morning, especially along the western foothills, where a wind advisory is in effect till lunchtime, where we can have gusts over 60 miles an hour. Turned out to be a beautiful day today, or a day yesterday, with a lot of sunshine. Today won't be so bad. We're going to have some clouds moving in, and then later today is when we have our chance of seeing some rain. Of course, out ahead of that, we'll have some mountain snow. Moisture totals for the month and for the year, we're ahead. Snow totals for the month, we're behind, but for the season, we're still pacing ahead, so in pretty good shape there. Let's talk temperatures. A little milder than normal as we wake up this morning, but still chilly. We're at 37 at the airport, feels like 26. There's that wind I was talking about. Out of the west, we just had a gust of 32 miles an hour. Temperatures in the 20s and 30s as we wake up. But yeah, western foothills, look out if you drive a high-profile vehicle. Quite windy to start this brand new season. We'll tell you how long that wind's going to last and talk about 2 systems coming in, giving us a chance of snow and rain. We'll do that coming up.
All right, Miller, thanks so much. Lots of details to track there. And our top story today this afternoon, all eyes are on President Donald Trump is expected to sign his long-awaited executive order to dismantle the Department of Education, which was a key campaign promise of his. A White House spokesman says the order is aimed at empowering parents, states, and communities. CBS's Natalie Brand reports from Washington.
Today, President Trump is expected to make good on another campaign promise.
We will ultimately eliminate the federal Department of Education. We'll send it back to the states.
The White House says he will sign an executive order to begin dismantling the Department of Education, though total elimination would require congressional approval. A senior official also tells CBS News the order does not change federal student loans or Title I, which provides financial assistance to children from low-income families. Also, a federal judge, after extending a previous deadline, is still demanding answers by today from the Trump administration on why his orders to halt 2 deportation flights to El Salvador carrying alleged gang members over the weekend were ignored. Court filings show the administration may use the state secrets privilege to try and block the judge from seeing some information about the removals. Meanwhile, the White House says President Trump proposed that the U.S. take control of Ukraine's power plants to ensure their security during his 1-hour phone call with the country's leader Volodymyr Zelensky yesterday. The president described their first call since their Oval Office clash as very good. Zelensky also said he's on board with a partial ceasefire on energy and infrastructure, something also discussed with Russian President Vladimir Putin during President Trump's Tuesday call. White House officials say negotiations could begin as early as this weekend in Saudi Arabia. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Back to the president's order to again dismantle the Department of Ed. That order also does not address special education and services for children with disabilities. And the department's workforce stood at 4,100 workers just a few weeks ago, but now that number is down to 2,100 after DOGE cuts. The plan is to return control to the states, but even some parents and former teachers worry about the effect it could have on future generations. With more on that, here's our Haley Monaco.
The cuts to the Department of Education is causing concern for one Montana parent who has had to overcome many barriers to get her child proper education, and now she fears what will come when the state is in control.
For most parents, this is a very hard journey.
For parents of kids with disabilities, advocating for their children never stops. Rebecca Richards understands it firsthand.
We're dealing with so much when you have a child with a disability.
Richard's daughter has cystic fibrosis and diabetes. She was in and out of the hospital when first starting school.
We're not a resource-rich state. It's a struggle for our parents and our families to get the medical needs, much less the special education needs.
Fighting for her daughter's needs, Richards was able to ensure her student with disabilities has equal access to education.
The Department of Education, that's one way that parents can interact and say, hey, these services are not being provided for my child.
President Donald Trump's administration is cutting the Department of Education approximately in half. Trump has previously said he wants to dismantle the department altogether and give funding control back to the states.
I think, if anything, we should be putting way more resources into education in general.
Jamie Isley retired from teaching after 30 years and is currently a Montana House representative from Livingston.
While it's very concerning, I also think we have to be patient. We want to assess the situation, really see how it's going to impact us and our students and our schools in the state.
Richard's daughter was able to graduate and move on to college.
She falls under OCR's 504 at that state public institution to be stripped of those rights. So it's just a really scary place to be.
The agency says it will continue providing funding for special needs students, but Richards worries this will just be another roadblock for parents and students.
We just really need those kind of pieces in place to ensure that our most vulnerable students are taken care of.
In Billings, Haley Monaco, MTN News.
Haley, thanks so much. And 2 recent fatal vehicle crashes involving teens in Yellowstone County have sparked discussion aimed at driver safety education. What's in focus? Raising awareness about the dangers of distracted driving. Most recently, the Montana Highway Patrol says a 17-year-old Laurel teenager died in a rollover crash on Interstate 90 west of town early Tuesday morning. Troopers say alcohol and drugs were possible factors, and the teen was not wearing a seatbelt. On March 2nd, a 16-year-old girl from El Paso, Texas, died near Laurel. MHP troopers say the teen pulled out in front of another car. The crash injuring a 56-year-old woman and killing a 56-year-old man. According to Safe Kids of Yellowstone County, 42 teens have died between 2020 and 2021 alone.
But when you are looking at 42 families that have been devastated and impacted just within the state of Montana within a 2-year period, we know that we can do something about this.
Safe Kids Yellowstone County launched the Be the Change Fellowship in the fall to raise awareness about distracted driving, seatbelt use, and impaired driving. Next week, the program will visit freshman students at Billings Skyview High School to discuss the dangers of distracted driving in the What Do You Consider Lethal presentation. And pivoting now, the troubles continue for one Billings towing company. As we first reported, Anderson Towing has been taken off Montana Highway Patrol's towing rotation list. This comes after an investigation found that the company overcharged a Bozeman business with a hefty bill, more than $6,000 for a tow. After our story aired 2 nights ago on Montana This Morning, we heard from you, learning this isn't the only overcharging instance. Our David J. hears from a Billings woman who says Anderson has already cost her more than $9,000.
A Billings couple is driving down 6th Street West in Howard when a car forced them to swerve off and hit that pole across the street. The police showed up, the tow truck company came as well. They still haven't been able to get their car back, and they've been charged some big fees.
The car was coming this way and went towards the vehicle, so I swerved here.
We went up here. This is the light pole we hit. So you can see there's still where the car went up off the curb.
Thomas Lawrence was driving with Joni Bulzensight when that crash happened in December of 2023, with Anderson Towing ultimately responding.
They pulled it from the back, damaging the back of the vehicle. And I did tell them about that, and I didn't get a response.
A week later, Anderson Towing sent a letter about reclaiming the vehicle, but that went to the wrong address. And 61 days after the crash, Joni Bulzensight received a bill for nearly $9,700.
It wasn't really understandable.
Bulzensight says her bill was $3,000 more than Kenya Noble's bill of about $6,700 for overbilling that she saw in a Q2 story. That Bozeman company received that bill after an accident nearly 11 months ago. In this case, Bulzensight has now also filled out an online complaint with the Office of Consumer Protection.
We're here to kind of get you through the process, and it takes a little bit of time, but the process works, I promise.
Andrew Butler says anyone can go through the process without a lawyer. About 100 complaints are filed annually, and many get settled, with about 5 each year going to the Tow Truck Complaint Resolution Committee.
You see the same companies end up with the same cases over and over again. But the Complaint Resolution Committee is gaining ground on that, and that's why this suspension of Anderson is so important.
In these instances, Anderson received a 6-month suspension for overbilling, which ends on April 30th of this year. We asked Anderson Towing for a comment about the Facebook posts, along with the email and phone calls we've received from others who have had similar experiences with Anderson Towing. The company referred us to its attorney, who says, once a neutral judge reviews all of the facts, we are confident Anderson Towing will be fully vindicated. And Joni Bulls Inside says she's more optimistic after filing the complaint.
I feel a lot more hope that maybe something comes of this.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
David, thanks so much. And the Montana Ag Network is celebrating Women's History Month and National Ag Month by profiling inspiring women in Montana agriculture. MTN's Tom Wiley introduces us to 3 central Montana ranchers who are staking their claim in the beef business.
Well, ranches are like snowflakes. They're all a little bit different, but they all have similar properties. And that's exactly what brought 3 women together for a unique business here in central Montana.
Jesse Olson, Abby Byerly, and Mariah Schammel live and work on family ranches around Lewistown. 6 years ago, they were just casual acquaintances from very different backgrounds, but they shared a frustration of what they viewed as a disconnect between consumers and ranchers.
There's this gaping void there that people just don't understand where their food comes from. And I think COVID really made that apparent. Between the frustration and noticing that gap there, we decided let's get together and do something and try to take a little bit of control in our own hands.
That's how Ranch Hers was born. Emphasis on the HERS, a direct-to-consumer beef business jointly operated by the 3 partners, aimed at delivering quality products and educating customers about where the food they eat comes from.
We're not cranking out t-shirts here. I mean, this is a 2-year plus project to get a steak on your plate, and that it's blood, sweat, and tears, literally.
And the project has taken off. Using select cattle from their respective ranches, the business has expanded its footprint from central Montana to a now nationwide customer base.
The 3 of us have very different styles of everything, personalities, different birth order even, which comes into play sometimes, all that stuff, which is what I think what makes us work really well together.
I think that the business based on wanting to buy from a female-owned business has been more than we anticipated too. I think people really are drawn to that.
There's often a misconception that the role of females on ranches is limited to bookkeeping and domestic management, but that's not the case for these women.
I think a lot of times women can be dismissed or overlooked in their roles in agriculture. They are a crucial role, and I do think that they do a lot to add to the industry.
And though the HERS is emphasized in the company name, Jesse, Abby, and Mariah never set out to be female role models. But if the muck boots fit, there's no harm in setting a good example for other women in ag.
It's helpful, especially as we see a decline in the population that are in ag, for young girls to see women in a leadership or a business role within ag. I'm glad that we can be like a face out there doing the hard stuff, lifting the heavy stuff.
Tom Wiley, MTN News.